Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. Today I want to answer a question that I get asked quite a bit. How do I determine what power supply I need for my particular device? We're going to answer that with just 3 basic things here. Number 1, we're going to go through these in order. What voltage is required? Now that is going to vary. AC voltage or DC voltage. So we can ask that. Is it AC or is it DC? Sometimes it will say it right on the back of the item you're looking to test. Sometimes it might not say that. Sometimes it may be a picture and it may look like that, or it may look something like that. Number 2, what is the current that's required for the device? This is usually measured in amps. I'm going to give you guys an example here. So we can see this power supply here. We have the output voltage of 9 volts, and it says here that it's DC, and then we see here 500 mA. So this tells us pretty much everything we need to know except for this very last part here, and that is the third part in our questions that we need to answer. What polarity is required? In this instance, you can see it has a little diagram here of the polarity. You're going to see it in some form or another of this, and what it looks like. You're going to have a line, and then a circle, and then a dot. And then what you're going to see here is either a plus here and a minus here. And I don't want to say this is the most common, but more so you'll see it done in this way. But do not rely on that. It could easily be the other way around, and this could be positive and this could be negative. You must verify this because this will damage your item if you get this part wrong. So in this instance, you can see here we have this plug, and you see we've got the 2 parts to it, the long bit here and then the tip that you see right there. The tip is denoted by this right here, this dot. The shield, or the outer end, is denoted by this C-shaped piece that kind of encompasses it. So pretty easy to visualize that. I'm going to show you guys another one here. This here, if you were looking at this, you can ascertain that when you see this diagram here, this is the shield, and this is the center conductor, or the center pin. And you can see the diagram right there. And that shows the same type of diagram. We've got a center conductor positive is another way you can say that. You have to distinguish between input voltage and output voltage. In this case, you see an input voltage of 120 VAC. 60 hertz, 11 watts, all on this same line. You can kind of see that there, right? This really stumps people because sometimes it says 115, sometimes it says 124, sometimes it says 110. It does not matter. Another giveaway is if you see this type of plug on it here, it's a North American plug. You're good to go. It does not matter what this says right here. Really, it would be nice if these were standardized and it just said like, hey, plug it into a North American outlet, but it doesn't do it that way. This case, it says 120. So know that if this says 117, it's okay. You can plug it in there. If it says 124, it's okay. You can plug it into your home. So if you're in Canada, North America, Mexico, 60 hertz is what you're going to be provided. So this will work in your house. If it says 50 hertz, know that that is the rest of the world. It's not going to have a plug that looks like this if it's 50 hertz, more than likely. There are some anomalies. I'll show you one of those in just a minute here. And then last thing here, 11 watts. This thing is expecting to get 11 watts from your house. The output in this case is 9 volts and DC. So we know in this case that the item that we're powering, in this case, we hope that it needs DC voltage. Now, what is the voltage that it needs? In this case, it needs 9 volts. So we would say it needs 9. Sometimes it needs 12, sometimes 24. It could be any number of voltages that could be required. If the item you're looking to power needs 12 volts, do not power it with a 9-volt adapter. If you have something that needs 9 volts, do not power it with a 12 or 24 volt adapter. Power it with the exact voltage and the exact form of voltage that you need. Okay? Sometimes we can break the rules a little bit. For example, with current here, this says that it produces 500 milliamps of current. Now, if your device needs 250 milliamps, this will work perfectly fine, but not the other way around. If your device needs 700 milliamps, this only produces 500. So this will not work for your device, or it may shorten the life of it or the device. So not advisable to use this for something that requires more power, but you can do it the other way around. You can supply more power to a device. Your device will only use what it needs. So that's one way you could kind of cheat a little bit. You don't need the exact milliamps to power your device, but it must be more than what it needs, but not the voltage. Make sure the voltage is exactly what it needs. And then the last bit of this, what is the polarity? We talked about that with the center conductor and the shield. Do not plug these in backwards. If your item says it needs a negative center pin, which I see quite a bit, so if it needs negative center pin and a positive shield, this will not work. You will break something. So don't use that. Get the correct polarity. You could cut this plug and flip it around, and you'll have exactly what is needed coming out of the end of this. And I can show you guys how to test this in another video. I'll make another one. If you're interested, I'll show you how to quickly determine which one is positive and which one is negative. Very simple. So just let me know if you're interested in that. So I hope that helps. I wanted to show you guys a couple more power supplies here just so you can see a bit of difference here. In this case, look at this, input 117. This one said input 120. So what's the deal? Is this going to work or not? Yes. Don't worry about that. As long as it has a North American plug, as you can see right here, or if it has a British plug, a rest of the world, let's just call it that, it's more than likely going to say 210, 220, 240, 250. Then you know that that is for the rest of the world. Don't plug an American item in overseas or you're going to damage it. Likewise, don't plug an overseas item with an adapter into an American outlet or you're going to do some damage. So this here says 117 volts, and then check this out. This was that other part, 47 to 63 hertz. This takes a huge range of hertz, so it's going to work. Don't worry. We're in North America, we're 60, so we're right up here towards the end. It's good to go. This is rare. You won't really see this where there's a range of hertz. And then the last bit here, this is requiring 40 watts of power from the wall. If you're plugging it into your home, that's not going to be a problem. Then we come to the output here. Here's the 3 bits of info that we needed, right? What is the voltage that's required? What this provides is 10 volts AC. And then we have here a last little bit of info. They're trying to trip us up by, rather than putting the watts like they did up here, they put voltamps. I notice that sometimes they do that. I wish it was a bit more standardized because it does cause confusion. But simply you can just take this 30 volt amps divided by 10 volts and you'll get 3 amps. This provides about 3 amps of power, probably a little less than that because it's a whole nother video altogether in regards to resistive loads and non-resistive loads. So if your item needs 1 amp, this is just fine because this is more than it needs. If your item needs 4 amps of power, this is not going to work for it, or it may work for a little while and you're going to shorten the life of this and more than likely your device. Here's another one that is kind of an odd one out. I'm showing you some of the odd ones because once you see something like this, most of them are they follow this structure here. In this case, you'll want to look at all of the bits of info on it and you'll find quickly what you need to know. In this case, look for this picture. See that picture right there? Well, that's the picture we drew down here. We've got a center pin positive, and that is really important to know. And then in this little box here is where we get all of the most important bits of info. And you can see there that it is an input of AC. Check this out, 110 to 240. This will take any power pretty much. The whole world can provide power for this thing and it will work just fine. And then also if we look, I'm assuming the hertz will also be, yeah, so 50 to 60 hertz, pretty much anything. So you can power this anywhere in the world and it's gonna work. And what this is gonna produce on the output, 7.5 volts at 2 amps. So if your item needs 1.5 amps, this is going to work just fine if it needs 7 volts. And then here is the center conductor like we saw earlier and the shield. Last one here, this one is another bit of an anomaly here. We've got our input. We know it's the input because it's on its own line by itself and you see that 120. Anytime you see 120, 110, 115, again, remember, American outlet, 60 hertz, 8 watts. So this is the input. This is going to work for any home, anywhere. Now on the output, this is the parts you want to pay attention to. This produces 12.5 volts AC. So we're not going to see this symbol that we saw down here on this one because this is AC. So it does not matter which way it goes. On an AC current, you don't need to worry about which is center, which is positive, which is negative. Again, another video. If you have questions about that, you could ask me in the comments. But in this case, since this is an AC power supply, you don't need to worry about that. And then the last bit of info here, the 265 MA. That's not Massachusetts, that's milliamps. So just like how we saw in here, this is more of a standardized approach. You'll see a lowercase MA. In this case, they used an uppercase. Don't be confused. It is just milliamps. So this produces 265 milliamps of power at 12.5 volts AC. So if your item needed 12.5 volts DC at 265, don't use this. If it needs 12.5 AC, this is acceptable. If it needs 265 or less. If it needs 220 milliamps, you're good. If it needs 300, don't use it. That is it in a nutshell. I hope I made that a little clearer. The video went longer than I was expecting it to go, but there's kind of a lot to take in, and I'm hoping to make one video that will then explain for good how to determine if your particular plug is going to work for your particular item. So enjoy the rest of your day or evening. We'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.